right, welcome to another episode of Drinks with MakerDAO Delegates. I'm your co-host, Frank Cruz, and
Shubi is here, sleeping for Coldiron, and probably not
Raphael. Probably not Raphael. All right. Welcome to another special episode. This one is hot off the press. There's some big news that has been recently released in the MakerDAO community forum, Discord, and also across your Twitter spaces and all that good stuff for social media that you get your information when it comes to DeFi protocols like MakerDAO. On today's show, we have a special guest. Yes, hot off the press. It's Phoenix Labs, which is a new R&D company by a cluster of DAO community members that have come together to have a focus on vertical integration of existing products in the MakerDAO ecosystem. Now, Phoenix Labs has recently announced that they're doing a new solution called Spark Protocol, Spark.lens, which aims to enhance MakerDAO features by creating a liquidity market for scalable crypto assets with variable and fixed rates, features that can help implement the first resilient oracle. So super excited about that. Spark Protocol's first product is called Spark.lens. So just remember that, short for SL. You can use the acronym SL, which is a lending market that integrates Maker's D3M and the PSM. Now, Phoenix Labs plans to continue delivering new products and features in the future, including Spark fixed rates, as I mentioned, resilient oracles, cross-chain support, Maker teleport support, which is huge in my opinion, and something that I've been waiting for, bootstrapping ETH DAI. So that's a whole mouthful, but yeah, super excited to have these folks on. Why don't we kick it off by saying hello to the First Lady of Phoenix. Hey Nadia, how's it going?
First and only lady. Hey guys, thank you for having us here.
Exciting MakerDAO delegates here to have all three of you. We also have one of the masterminds of the whole Phoenix Labs. It's Sam, none other. You might know him as a former protocol engineering, or perhaps, are you still providing services to protocol engineering?
Yeah, I'm doing both.
Terrific. And we also have from Data Insights, Tadeo. How's it going, bro?
This is my third appearance. I'm the biggest guest here, by the way, right? This is official now.
You are by far right now.
He's the leader. He's the leader. Now, folks, I kind of gave you like a brief introduction in my own words. What exactly is Phoenix Labs, Spark Protocol, a.k.a. Spark.lens? Is there anything that you guys can add there, or did I hit that ball over the fence?
I just because of the comment you just made, like I want to say that we're still working for our core units. Like this is just a proposal we presented because we are aligned with the end game, and we have been thinking on how we can start doing something now. Months ago, Sam announced the Crimson cluster, but because of how the end game has evolved, we understood that now the focus was on creating ecosystem actors. So we just thought, okay, what we want to do, and it is interesting because this is our objective from different perspectives, but we all want to help Maker to grow. So what we thought, okay, so what's the best way to help Maker with this? So we thought, okay, let's go through the ecosystem actor path. Let's create a developer studio. Let's just think about all the features, like me talking with partners during the last years. I know what the ecosystem expects from Maker. So let's build all that, and let's launch as soon as we can. So that's what we presented. But we have been doing this in during weekends, holidays, vacations. We still are working for our core units. That's very important for you guys to know that.
You guys are on a 24/7 workaholics there. So good to hear that. Good to hear that you're still committed to the core units and you're building something that I'm excited about personally. But before we get going here, because there's a lot to unpack there, this is Drinks with MakerDAO Delegates. I see all three of you guys are holding coffee cups there. Is that right?
it must be pretty strong coffee. So maybe
You don't know what's inside there. Maybe it's just coffee in disguise. It's not coffee.
That's right. It's Canadian coffee. All right, so let's get it going. I guess all three of you have different distinct taste buds, I hope, and you tasted this coffee. Where is this coffee from, and what do you rate it from 1 to 5?
So the coffee shop is 2 blocks away from here. It's called Café Innovación. It's quite nice. Sam and I actually have the same one. We have a cappuccino. I'm not a big fan. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. I'm going to be harsh this time.
Oh, wow.
Last time I gave a 5 out of 5, so that I need to pull it
The
back.
worst coffee by far we have on the show, I think.
I'm drinking tea. So now it is like 3, maybe 2.5. I don't know. Yeah, it's not that good.
Yeah, I guess cappuccino as well. I don't know. It's pretty good. Like it.
It's good because of the size, right?
Yeah, maybe I'm just tired and I need it. So yeah, getting a bonus point there.
And I think the most amazing part about this coffee company that you acquired it from is called Coffee Innovación. So it's coffee innovative, right? So you guys are out there innovating. So it's just fitting to see you guys go to that store and pick out some innovative coffee. But unfortunately, we got a 2, 2.5, and a 3. Very cool. All right, what about you, the delegates here? Shupi, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, so I have to disappoint you. No alcohol for me. I had a pretty rough night. I think I was chatting with you this morning at 4 a.m. something like this. And tonight I have to go to the opera because my biggest son has having an appearance again on stage. So no drinks for me. I'm having Shinzen tea. I hope I pronounced it right. It's a white tea from China. I'm really into teas right now. So this is my, I don't know, 5th cup today. I feel really pumped. It's great. It's really 5 out of 5 stars.
Dad duties do call Shupi, so he's staying sober. What about you, Raphael? What do you got?
beer. And I have something special. It's to give this innovative crew some historical grounding. This is a historical beer made from some ancient sort of wheat, Emmer Bier, Riedenburger Emmer Bier Naturtrüb. I'll taste it.
Very cool. Terrific. So we have an innovative, clean, and rosy show happening today. So I'm going to complete the superfecta here by showing you this beer that I also have. It's by Grimm. It's called Double Negative. I'm not sure why it's called Double Negative, but this beer actually won an award for one of the best stouts in the US. So I've been saving this thing for a special show, and I think bringing on the folks of Phoenix Protocol here is super special, right? Well, listen, this is an award-winning beer, so who am I to disagree against this? So I'll give it a 4.5. Shout out to Grimm Brewery out in Brooklyn for achieving this, because it's pretty hard for a small brewery to get an award against a lot of the competition out there. So let's get things going. We introduced Phoenix Labs and Spark Protocol. So I guess we can kick things off by asking a very simple question. What separates Spark.lens from other competitors out there? And what are some of the products you guys are looking to bootstrap to make it different than anybody else out there?
Yeah, so the main differentiator is the D3M. This is the direct connection of DAI liquidity from Maker Core. So being a product of Maker and being in control of Maker governance, Maker can set all the parameters to best help the DAI ecosystem, and then inject DAI liquidity such that people can borrow at the cheapest rate, similar to how Maker Core works. So we find it's by combining this source of liquidity, which is Maker, with this advanced feature set, which is the lending engine. So this will give users things that they previously didn't have access to, such as cross-collateralization, rehypothecation, which means you can borrow the collateral that's deposited, that's desired by some users if they want to short ETH or something like that. And in addition, we also have things like E-mode available, so we can have high leverage between two assets that are derivatives of the same asset.
I mean, yeah, I think you have fixed rate products on the horizon. So maybe for a couple of viewers who are not familiar with what fixed rates are, maybe you can just give us like 2 sentences about why people would want to buy that, and then tell us like DECO has a product that I think is ready to get used, and then Element has launched Hyperdrive recently with a pretty awesome Twitter thread, and maybe you can just give us like a short overview of the competitive landscape out there.
Sure. So fixed rates, and in particular fixed borrow rates, are what users have been asking us for a while now. It was very popular in the last bull market. This at its essence is you pick a rate, and for a certain duration, say 6 months, and then you would say, oh, I want to lock in 3% for 6 months, and then you pay it up front, and then you get that position. And if the interest rates change on your collateral in like Maker or Spark Protocol, then these rates are unaffected by that. So these users have security that for these 6 months, they only have to pay that rate. It gives predictability. And this, this is a very common product in more traditional markets, and we haven't really seen it in DeFi yet. So we want to bootstrap this. Now, there's been fixed rate protocols. They exist, they're all over the place, but they haven't really gained traction yet. We feel that the missing piece is connecting a couple of the pieces in the ecosystem. So Maker liquidity is by far the most important thing in DeFi, in my view. Connecting that with a lending engine that allows for high leverage, and in combination with these protocols such as Element and Sense that can tokenize these positions and have AMMs attached that can deal with fixed rate tokens. Connecting this all together is the key to really getting people using this at scale.
Yeah, and I want to add something there. Like maybe you are like wondering why we added DECO, Element, and Sense there. And maybe it wasn't explicit, but that's part of the meta that we want to generate. And that's like our intention of the community we want to attract to use Spark. We want Spark, like we will start with a Spark Lend, as you saw, but we want to integrate other features like the ones that are in the roadmap. But like our intention, our objective is to attract more developers and the ecosystem in general to build on top of Spark, or like maybe they just like take a Spark as part of their solution. And I don't know if you saw, but as part of our proposal, we also presented a proposal in Aave because we want to do a revenue share agreement with them. And that is the meta that we want for Spark and for the community that will be involved with Spark.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to include other communities, because I think that's what makes crypto so powerful, this kind of DeFi Legos and people building on top of each other and like everybody making each other happy, like a big family. So like, have you used DECO's product? Like, have you looked into that? How would you say it performs in especially in regard to these kind of protocols or products that are out there and are already like attracting users and so on and so forth?
Yeah, so for us, we're happy to use whatever product our users want, or Spark Protocols users want, rather. So for these external protocols, we're looking to integrate them with the Spark Lend. DECO sits more in Maker Core. And so when that's available, we have no problem adding that as well, because we think users are going to want it. So the Maker Core vaults, just from it's like a technical thing more, like the Maker Core vaults kind of sit separate from the lending engine. So we can support both of these. It's no problem.
Before we switch over to Shupi, just in the proposal, you mentioned Element's Hyperdrive. I was kind of wondering if you kind of give us a basic explanation. What is Element Hyperdrive and how does it fit into the Spark protocol?
Right. Okay, so the guys over at Element, they know this way better than I do, so you may want to interview them, but at a high level from a user perspective, the biggest difference is that, like I would say, one of the main problems with the current fixed rate market is you have to pick an arbitrary maturity date. So like let's say I want to do fixed rate borrow for 6 months. I could look at this tokenization that ends on, say, I don't know, June sometime, right? It's not it's a 6-month duration, but it started like 2 months ago. And so I have to buy fixed rates for 4 months. It's kind of weird. It's awkward. Like the user experience, like they want to just say, I want 6 months of borrowing. That's like, that's how it should work. So Hyperdrive does this. It's and it basically allows the user to pick 6 months in the future of whatever the date is. And then it does all this complex stuff behind the scenes to deal with how to merge that into other people who are taking other loans and make sure it all works out. And you don't have to roll it over to a new token. So it's a more advanced feature set, but we see lots of innovation in the space. And really, again, this is about the users. So we're going to present the users these options, and whichever ones users are interested in, that's what we double down on.
That sounds pretty cool. And the question I'm having is maybe not totally related to fixed rate vaults, but one thing where I was excited about, I think it started 2 years ago, were those institutional vaults, which had this feature of an origination fee that is basically paid up front. Is that also something that you're seeing for your stack as well, or is that something that you see is not going to be asked from the user base?
Yeah, so that feature was, it was made, we had a bit of a time crunch, so we couldn't like spend our time and get the best solution. We find these new solutions are going to be far, far better because they're going to have marketplace price discovery. This is helped by the high leverage. So we will have E mode, which allows, as I said, high leverage between derivatives of the same asset. So we will run this on DAI, the fixed rate version of DAI, and then savings DAI, which is DSR locked DAI. If you run it there, then speculators in a very capital efficient way can make decent returns if they know what the interest rates are going to be. So by enabling them to do this in a very capital efficient way, it's going to make very liquid market price discovery, and this is just going to benefit everybody. So we want to use these more advanced mechanisms because we feel it's much better.
Yeah, that origination fee with the institutional vaults was like the tool that we had available at that time. But now, like it is incredible what is out there regarding fixed rates.
Cool, that makes me even more excited because the origination fee was already a nice step forward. But yeah, looking forward. Do you have any feeling when you're going to be ready to ship it, to really attach to the Maker Core and make this available?
For SparkLend or the fixed rates?
SparkLend. Let's start with that.
SparkLend, we're planning to launch in April.
April, guys. Yes, if everything is approved.
Yes,
if everything is approved. Yes, we need everything approved, so we can start.
It's not only approval by MKR token holders, right? There's probably something on the other side of the Maker Core to be done for that as well, right? So you're basically just waiting for approval, and then everything's fine. There's nothing to do beside the stuff that you have to do on your side.
Yeah, there are a lot of things to do. Everything is in detail in the SPFs. We have to do a lot of stuff, including all the legal research to incorporate the company structures and all that. And also we have to engage with third-party providers to run the services that we need to have everything ready to launch SparkLend.
Yeah, I was more referring to, of course, you have stuff to do, probably tons of stuff to do. And so even if it's not being April, but May, my question was more around, are there dependencies to the stuff that you don't have in control right now, where you're not confident about this is going to be delivered, aside from MKR holders supporting the plan?
It's just MKR holders.
Yeah, because at the end, we're going to pull from it'll be a new D3M, right? So that's already built, and P has already built the abstracted models that now is in place for compounds. So it'll simply be a new additional D3M.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we need the 3 proposals to be approved: the D3M MIB and the 2 SPFs.
Then we're ready to rock.
And we're ready to launch Maker. Yeah, April for Sparkland, and we think we will be able to launch like the first version of fixed rates by end of July. We really want to launch as soon as possible. We have been working on this for the last, I don't know, like the idea started in June last year, but we started working on this like for the last 6 months or so. I don't know, something like that.
I didn't take a Christmas vacation. We'll just say that.
Hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
I love Maker.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about DAI, the product market fit, and kind of want to backtrack Nadia, and also today I kind of want to hear your personal thoughts on this, but we'll start off with Nadia. You know, one of the things as you being part of Growth Core unit, being the facilitator of that unit, was that your team had to go out there and get some integrations done with some hopefully retail users that are interested in DAI. And you got a lot of traction down in Argentina. I think there was a point in 2020 or maybe 2019 when there were so many people down there in South America looking to use DAI. And we kind of feel, some of us community members, that we've kind of gotten away from that. And we've also have high dust parameters. We've gotten away from that retail inspiration. How does this Sparkland bring that back to the forefront of the MakerDAO community? Tadeo, how do you feel about the fact that you being Argentinian, that this had some traction at one point and it's kind of lost that traction that it had?
Yeah, well, good question. Because as I've always said, Maker until now, like without the Spark, Maker is at least from the growth perspective, from a growth core unit perspective, is more like a business to business thing. So whatever we wanted to do, it was through partners. If we wanted to reach retail, it was through someone else, not Maker directly, because we like Maker itself doesn't have a front end, and like retail needs like to have access somehow to the Maker protocol. And I think this is like a different strategy we want to try out, because with Sparkland we will have a way to have access to retail directly. And for me this is super important, because I mean, our partners are great, but of course our partners are more interested in their business, not Maker business. So whenever we started doing things with them, of course they wanted like to go with DAI and integrate DAI and do things with us. But then like the next new interesting and shiny thing appears and they want to go there. So that is difficult for Maker, because we helped in the past to bootstrap a lot of the projects that are now in the ecosystem, but they are just like now, I don't know, thinking about something else. And I think this is the most interesting part about Sparkland. Sparkland is for Maker and for DAI. So everything that we built is just for Maker and DAI. And of course, we will start with Spark protocol. We will start with Sparkland on mainnet, but as you can see in the roadmap, we're thinking about the cross-chain initiative of Maker. So we want to like include that into the Spark protocol. That will give us like the chance to get back to retail and like have another interaction with them. So yeah, like we're thinking about that, and this will be like a new opportunity for us to like offer something to retail.
Yeah, and one thing I like that you mentioned the dust limit. That's a very good point. So for Sparkland, we do not have a dust limit, so users can like. I think this is a big missed opportunity of Maker for the past little while, is that first time you're borrowing against your ETH with like $100 or something, right? There is such value in that, just getting people excited about it. With the dust limits at like 10,000, I can't even imagine how many people are getting turned off just because they don't have enough money to use it off the start. So right off the bat, no dust limits, so people can start playing around with it. And then, as Nadia said, moving on to L2s and side chains such that we can get the gas costs down as well. It's very important.
In the particular case of Argentina, like by far the biggest use, so Argentina right now has like extreme capital controls. It's quite interesting that there's like 7 prices of the dollar against the peso, depending on the use case that you're able to get the government to approve you. So stable coins are a way to actually be able to safeguard and be financially independent. By far the biggest used one is USDT on the Tron network. So we can have our own opinions on that, but it's really what the user it's what the user can see as valuable as soon as possible. So it's like for us, our job there is to be able to show and showcase and make DAI as usable as possible. So Spark protocol with Sparkland and again, for me, fixed rates are the biggest tectonic shift in DeFi. Like a normal user does not do variable rates. Like you can't have this unpredictability going into the future. So the moment you're able to offer fixed rate terms to a normal consumer on an L2, I think that's going to be massive for them, because not only now the biggest use case for stablecoins is simply savings, just being able to keep that value of your wealth not deteriorating. And second of all is that minimally, I would say, is doing transactions or transfers between users. So the next one is the ability to give access to simple financial products that people can use. I mean, we've been supporting applications like Lemon Cash and Delo in Argentina. More are sprouting out, and hopefully with these new offerings, we can again get closer to retail in general.
And that's an excellent segue to my next question, because a lot of retail demand, I think, especially in the last year, has been liquid staking derivatives. And I've seen that you look to bootstrap EtherDAI, which I think is super interesting. So maybe you can walk us through what EtherDAI is, how you plan to create that. And then I think in your proposal, and you can correct me if I read that wrong, is that you imagine a kind of peg to ETH for EtherDAI, and then how this is going to be maintained. So
sure. So EtherDAI it's part of the end game plan. I did not invent this. This is like Rune's design. I've just been putting a technical strategy towards it. So first, let me explain EtherDAI. Yeah, like you said, EtherDAI can be thought of almost exactly as DAI is to USD, EtherDAI is to ETH. So the idea is that we would deploy an entirely new instance of multi-collateral DAI. It has a VAT and all these features, but the only mental switch you need to do is that the asset that we're pegging to is ETH. So it's a little bit weird to think about it first, but if you just kind of always replace US dollars with ETH, you can switch your mind over to the EtherDAI setup entirely pretty easily. So for example, what would be the setup of this? What would it look like? So we have EtherDAI, which is the ERC20 equivalent of ERC20 DAI. We have the vaults would be primarily denominated in DAI, actually. So DAI would be, because this would be for a short position on EtherDAI or ETH. The PSMs, which are currently using cash-like stuff, such as USDC, other US dollar derivatives, that switches to ETH and liquid staking derivatives, such as Lido and Rocket Pool and Coinbase ETH, etc. So that's sort of the setup. The particular suggestion, and this is completely up to MakerCore if they want to pursue this or not, is we could have a fairly quick path to getting this up if we use the Sparkland engine as the vault engine. It's set up such that we have the D3M technology, again, exactly the same, except we're minting in EtherDAI as opposed to DAI, but all the code is basically the same. We would mint that into the Sparkland market, and the same way we would do with the current proposal for the D3M with DAI. And then users could start using that as collateral or shorting it or whatever they want to do. So this would be the equivalent of the Vault engine, but in Sparkland. Of course, there's some caveats. We need to support global settlement at some point, likely. Maker probably wants the core vaults added at some point. So this is not a path to override this. This is more just a path to go quickly, and then we can bootstrap demand, get users involved, get them excited, and backfill the all the safety as the thing grows. One piece actually I missed. So Ether DAI is pegged 1-to-1 to ETH. But the asset that people will mostly be using is what I'm calling Ether DAI. The terminology is a little bit loose, but yeah, it's basically the interest-bearing version of that. So you can think of it, all the yield that comes in from the PSMs from Lido and Rocket Pool, and who knows, maybe Maker runs its own staking service at some point. All the revenue generated by the protocol would get forwarded, or most of it, to this yield-bearing portion, and it is the exact same as the DSR is for DAI. We look at investments in cash-like stuff in traditional finance with the US dollar, like treasuries and whatnot. That's sort of the easy yield. And like Maker is at least indicating that they want to forward most of that yield to the DAI holders as the DAI savings rate. Similarly, with Ether DAI, you would take all the easy yield, which is just having a PSM with Lido staked ETH or something like that, and then you forward that to those who are holding Ether DAI, because they're the ones that are building demand for the product, so they're the most important users.
You mentioned it is totally possible that we don't deploy the same Maker core just for Ether DAI. So that was my assumption. My assumption was, okay, we just deploy the whole Maker core system again, but not for Ether DAI, instead for DAI. And then we have a D3M to your systems. But you mentioned this is actually not necessary. I wonder how we would actually D3M something if we don't have the core deploy for that. Or would you essentially just mint the Ether DAI then?
Oh, yeah. So we need the Maker core deployment of the MCD instance that is referencing Ether DAI or ETH.
Okay.
That is a requirement for D3M, yeah.
Yeah, that's a requirement, yeah. It reminds me a bit of the idea I had like 2 years ago with EuroDAI. That was essentially this exact same setup, but not with ETH, but with Euro. Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yes, nice throwback. I remember that.
Yeah, and global settlement has been a problem there as well. You probably don't have a solution yet, right?
It's always the hardest thing, global settlement. Yeah, it's necessary, but it's a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's necessary until it's not necessary anymore, right? But
it's like the nuclear option, right? You never want to use it, but it needs to be there.
One question about like the PSM containing Lido staked ETH or Rocket Pool ETH or some other like liquid staking derivative. So now when we have the PSM, it contains USDC, which is super pegged to $1, right? So the PSM has this stabilizing function, but now you have an asset in the stabilizing module that varies in rate to the asset you peg to, right? So how's that work? How's the math there? Or
yeah, it's a good question. And so the PSMs as they're currently designed would not support that. So as I indicated in the diagram, we would need some modifications to the PSM to have an Oracle price. And then it's just a matter of matching up the value of the assets, which is the Lido portion, against the liabilities, which is the Ether DAI issued. And whatever that discrepancy is, that's revenue that just goes into the surplus buffer, right?
So I guess there is no way to kind of get rid of the liquidity risk, or do you envision the PSM to get rid of the liquidity risk for stake ETH or Ether DAI?
Liquidity risk on like Lido depegging or something, which
yes, the depegging,
yeah. So liquidity risk. It's going to be less and less as the Shanghai upgrade comes, because we have withdrawals getting activated. I think next month is still the plan. That's going to give massive confidence boost to anybody who's wanting to get into Lido staked ETH. Previously, they've had to run very large token emissions to pay people to provide peg liquidity. but that's already getting ramped down. You can see the sentiment like changing around that. It's very, the peg concern, I think was a temporary thing, and now it's not going to be a concern. Now, that being said, we can include secondary backing. So with the PSM structure in the design, we would have something like Lido staked ETH, as it's the most liquid, as the primary mechanism for peg stability. But if something goes wrong there, we can also have a PSM with ETH as a backup. That totally works, and that's the strongest pegs security you can get, right?
Yeah, super excited about this. Let's move on. So wanted to ask, like, what are the main factors of driving Sparkland revenues in the early stages? It's always very hard to create an MVP and get bootstrapping of revenues to keep the new platform going. And what can the Maker community do to help with Ether DAI demand? What are the things that we could do as a community to help you guys get that Ether DAI demand?
Right. So revenue that will come from new borrows from DAI. So one of our primary focuses right off the bat is to build decentralized collateral backing DAI and getting inroads into markets that we previously have not been a part of. So the DAI market will be generating most of the DAI borrows specifically will be generating the vast majority of the revenue to Sparkland. It's the same as Maker, right? Like, we make most of our money off like stability fees and whatnot. So yeah, that is where the revenue is going to come from. I can also speak to what was the last question again?
To bootstrap Ether DAI.
Ether DAI, yes. So that is actually going to be one of the hardest things for Ether DAI, is that bootstrapping demand is. And so there are a number of strategies to do this in the end game with tokenomics. So we think long-term that's the play. People are going to be farming with it for sub-DAO tokens and whatnot. But in the interim, it may be entirely possible that we want to see demand with just more traditional yield farming on the Maker token or something like that. So this is Maker Core's decision, but we have the assistance available if Maker wanted to run yield farm on the Ether DAI market in Sparkland. The lending engine supports this without any code changes, so it's something we could get online very quickly if desired by Maker. Potentially an interesting setup if we're not interested in doing a net inflation on the supply is we could have a burn on the other side of the same amount, and just it's kind of market neutral, but it gets new people excited about holding Maker and stuff like that. So this is maybe a way we could build the community.
Yeah, also it depends on when Maker launches Ether DAI. We don't know when that will happen, but maybe it is at the same time as the sub-DAOs are around. So that will be much easier, because with all the sub-DAO tokens, we can easily bootstrap liquidity on Ether DAI using that. So it depends, it depends on when is the launching date of that.
Got it. So you need a lot of support from the Maker community and kind of bootstrap Ether DAI to get things going, which is something I'm super excited to get going. And Raphael, you had mentioned last year that you were going to be disappointed if ETH DAI wasn't rolled out by December 2022. So are you still disappointed, or are you super excited about this announcement here?
So I was disappointed that it wasn't released in December, but I'm super excited now that it's going to be released in soon, TM.
June.
No, I think it's awesome. Like we've seen with Frax and other that the demand for liquid staking derivatives is almost insatiable. With exactly. The Maker name behind it, I think this is like gonna be a home run, basically, right?
Yep.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Who has the teleport question if you want to chime in there?
Yeah, that was me. So you mentioned like first class integration to teleport. What does it mean? Like I wasn't aware there were different like in the trains, like different classes where you can either go in the first class or the economy class. So maybe you can clarify what that means.
Right. So there's a couple things to this. First, let me maybe run over how we're viewing the future of what interfaces are going to look like for the users in probably not the not too distant future. So currently, if you're using any lending market, you usually have to select which blockchain you're on, and then you do some isolated thing there. You know, maybe there's no liquidity. It's very isolated and fragmented. It's not ideal. So what we're probably going to see more and more is this liquidity be able to cycle around, and Maker Teleport is a big player there, where we're able to move DAI liquidity chain to chain in like an extremely fast fashion, supported by the Maker system. So when what the primary asset that's going to go between chains, I believe, is going to be stable coins, because if you think about it, and possibly ETH is the other asset that I think will jump between L2s and stuff like that. If you think about it, why would I move, say, like the Optimism token to Arbitrum? It doesn't usually make much sense. So you'll have the L2 tokens in their chain. You'll have ETH probably going cross-chain because it's used for gas in a lot of places. But I think the main volume is going to be stable coins. So DAI being the largest decentralized stable coin, along with Maker Teleport, that's going to be what users are using to jump around chains. So what this looks like to the user is no longer do you pick I'm on Optimism or Arbitrum or whatever, and then taking a bore out there. It's not really that important. You would just sort of indicate what you want to do at a higher level. You would say, I want to supply this asset, and I want to borrow this asset, and I want to have DAI on this target chain to do whatever afterwards. And then, you know, we can do this on multiple chains with Maker Teleport working under the hood to move the DAI that's generated from debt on one chain to being useful on another chain. So yeah, this is all just going to be abstracted away.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So I, like, as a borrower, I just see like an aggregate rate.
Yeah.
And then like I wouldn't like really care if under the hood like 50% is filled on Arbitrum and 20 on ETH. But that's
exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, for me the big shift here is that like until now all Maker products are like backend products, backend services. So like in the growth core unit, what we always do is to look for partners who can put a front end on top of that. Sometimes like we try to like give them ideas on how we want to that integration to happen. So we might like have, I don't know, like right now, for example, we have a grant open for someone to build a teleport front end because we don't have one. We also talk with different bridges so they can use teleport in the back. But what we think is a first-class integration is like from a product usability. It has to be transparent for the user, but in the back, you should be able like to go through one chain to another. And if you have DAI and you want another stable coin, do it in a simple way without thinking that much about it or changing between different interfaces or products. Like the goal is that you have a wallet, you connect to Spark protocol, and the Spark protocol just like give you ideas of what you can do there. And it's not like right now, DeFi is like kind of the opposite. You have to know what you want to do, and then you start playing with different protocols and bridges and going from one protocol to another. We want to change that.
Yeah, and Tadeo, you've been named, I believe, kind of project manager, for lack of a better word, but correct me what your exact role is. I was wondering if you had done any kind of data insights into the user demand for layer 2s and how that is either growing or struggling. What have you seen there, or any of you guys who have maybe looked at to the user demand on L2s?
So what we've seen, at least on my side, is like right now it's just mostly being done via incentive programs. So we saw the Optimism incentive programs, and then that completely eclipsed Arbitrum. Now Arbitrum is gearing up on their program, so then it just shifts all the way there. So there's a lack of stickiness to users, really. Again, each chain, like specifically optimistic rollups, they're great. They do have some security concerns. They're still not fully addressed. So again, I think like the natural organic demand will end up coming from what applications are actually in each chain. So ideally, again, because our focus is integrating existing products, like we essentially are looking at what's out there, what's the user behaviors with that, very much taking into account let's say the artificial demand that they have due to token emissions, really get rid of that and really just look at the value that each application brings. An application that brings value and that has users recurrently coming back, and that's something that we want to integrate. Really, they want to get away from any fad or any just yield farmers essentially. Well, no yield farmers, like more incentive farmers.
So I guess we can expect something perhaps with Velodrome on Optimism and get some bribes there with Spark Protocol, possibly, but you guys don't know yet. So unless you do know and you want to tell us, but oh, good.
I mean, actually, just to jump in from the Velodrome perspective, there was a discussion in the Velodrome maker group that is managing the VNFT if we should propose something to the maker community that makers actually sourcing DAI into Velodrome, primarily to increase liquidity. But of course, this is also it's not like a lot of money being made there, but at least a bit. But so far, we are not convinced ourselves to do that, to propose something like this. But maybe at some later stage, I don't know.
Yeah, funding requests are a little difficult at the moment, and that ties into one of the questions I have for you. And I mean, I know this is a recorded call, so I'm perfectly aware. Like, share what you can share. I think at the moment, your work is basically for free. Your lives are funded by your jobs in core units, which is awesome. I think it's amazing what the level of innovation you produce for the DAO and also for the wider DeFi ecosystem. But like going forward, what kind of funding mechanism do you envision for groups such as yours? Is this like more like a grant type of funding? Is it like I don't know, like an ecosystem fund? Like we've seen a lot of that, and like maybe you have some ideas there.
Like first I want to I have a comment to Velodrome and Optimism and rewards. Two things, like right now we are in Maker Growth, we created a proposal that is right now in the Optimism forum to get Optimism rewards. And what we want to do is we want to give these rewards to every project or the main projects that are in Optimism, including Velodrome, to give them these rewards so they can incentivize that usage. So we are just like, it's not for Maker, it is for the community. And that's like, I think, we want to maintain that meta in Phoenix Labs and Spark. And because of that, the only way to, like right now, like the only available tool that we have now is to receive funding is through SPFs and MIPS, but that's changing. And right now with the ecosystem scope and other scopes that are being posted in the forum, we believe there will be like a better way to present this type of new ecosystem actors into Maker, because I don't think that the SPF is the right tool for this. I think there must be another mechanism to fund this type of ecosystem actors, because it is not that we want to do one thing and then disappear. This is that we want to build for Maker, we want to innovate for Maker, and like presenting a clear roadmap, like clear deliverables, just like building and giving back to Maker. As you can read in the proposal, everything that we built in the inside Phoenix Labs, it belongs to Maker. So I don't think a grant I wouldn't call it a grant. Like usually in the growth core unit, we give grants, and I think that has been how Maker has been doing it until now. We give grants to partners, they build their thing, and then we don't have like any relationship with that partner. In this case, it's different because whatever we build, it belongs to Maker, and I think that is something different. So I think by reading like just the initial paragraphs of the ecosystem scope, and based on what Rune has been telling us during the DCVs or DVC calls, I think the ecosystem scope will offer a way to fund these new ecosystem actors that will interact with Maker.
And what's lacking there compared to SPFs? Is it like some milestones, like definition of milestones, or what in your opinion, like what's lacking the most in the current funding mechanisms that you would like to see in the future?
Well, I think like a lot of things. So milestones, deliverables, more transparency, but like for me, the most important thing is that right now, SPFs are, okay, I need a budget for this, but we don't know in the order of priorities what is most important for Maker and what not. So we maybe like in 1 month, we received 10 SPFs, but we don't know which one is more important for Maker than the other one. So that's confusing for delegates and the Maker ecosystem in general. With the scopes, we will have priorities. And understanding these priorities, we will be able like to fund different projects. That's one. And the other is that right now we have a lot of resources in the DAO, but because the resources belong to core units, it is difficult to have access to these resources. And actually that was like a thing that we thought a lot about when we were like writing this PF, because for this launch, we want to be as lean as possible. And to do that, we want to use the available resources that we already have in the community. So right now, with an SPF, it is really hard to use that because, of course, like the mandate of each core unit is very clear, and like it doesn't include to support another group. So I think the ecosystem scope will change that because, well, that is my understanding of the end game now. Let's see how it goes. But my understanding is that with ecosystem scope, like there will be, we will have like a marketplace of ecosystem actors being able of doing things. And if you want to build something, you can just like use these resources. But well, let's see. I think that's my understanding. Let's see how the ecosystem scope evolves.
Some big takeaways there. And I think we need to reiterate that whatever Phoenix Labs builds is wholly owned by MakerDAO. That's huge. I think we need to remind the community of that. And the second is that as core unit team members, all three of you are still putting in work to your core unit respective communities. You, Nadia, as a facilitator, you, Tadeo, as a facilitator of data insights, and you, Sam, as part of protocol engineering. What are some of the tips that you can give some of the future core unit team members or even community members who might have a 9-to-5, a full-time job, and are looking to gradually get into the MakerDAO ecosystem and build the next Phoenix or Sparklen or something similar?
Yeah, I would say just get involved in the community, identify where there are problem points, and then find something you're interested in. And you know, if it's fun for you, even in your free time, it's like enjoyable, right? So that would be my view of it. That's certainly how I got started.
Yeah, I think the important point is like proactivity. It's like find someone saying like something that you feel the community is lacking or is missing, and also what you are interested in doing with your time, and do a proposal, or actually go on, like if it's not that big, you can go build the first iteration and present it to the community and see the response. Again, that as thankfully as Sam, like that was also the way I basically walked into Maker. I think that's really appreciated, and yeah, you can just slowly scale up until, like us, you end up doing this 150% of your time.
Don't take vacations, right? That's probably the best answer.
Only work from here.
Only up, only up. So with that spark we got here today, I want to thank the team at Phoenix Sparkland. Super excited to see what you guys build. I think the maker community can't wait to get this going. Let's get it over the hump, so to speak, over that wall by April 2023. Let's get it going, guys.
Thank you for having us.